bombarded by data from space. Maybe it's...
Invaders from Mars? That's your province, not mine. At least in the real world.
Look at all that energy pouring from it. What do you need? Yes, we've established that. What is it that you need?
Oh, something's breaking through the wall.
Son, I think we better get out of here, sharp.
Oh,
Dear God! You see, it's them!
into the corridor. Run, now!
Looks like there's a storm coming.
Hello and welcome YouTubers and Doctor Who fanatics to a Big Finish review, and for this Big Finish review I'll be taking a look at Nightshade again. But yes, this is the Big Finish adaptation of Nightshade. If you know me, Nightshade is one of my favourite Doctor Who books, so this release has been really intriguing me. I've been really anticipating for it. And I'm so happy that Big Finish have brought one of my favourite Doctor Who stories to life. So if you want to go straight to my review of Big Finish's adaptation of Nightshade, there's the time down below. If you have or haven't skipped, then let's begin the video. So to the showcasing of Nightshade. Now sadly my primary lighting is gone. Here it is by here, the bulb died. And it's been with me ever since I started the channel, so yeah, lighting maybe a little bit off in this when I'm using my secondary backup. And you can probably tell the lighting isn't as strong as before, so can't really do anything about that, but I have got a backup just in case. So yeah, for the front cover we have the 7th Doctor and Ace, with a nice burst of light by here. We have the cosmos in the background, and the villain of the story, or the Nightshade bugs. Very standard cover by Lee Bindon. Nice to see him do some Big Finish covers, because he did a lot of the classic DVD covers. So here we have the spine of the release, what it looks like on your shelf. With the 7th Doctor picture by there, Doctor Who Nightshade, number 9 from the novel adaptations, and the Big Finish logo. For the back, who is written, adapted and directed by, the bio on the story, which I'll place in the description, or you can check the Big Finish website, cast list, and the running time, which is 120 minutes approx, with behind the scenes. So inside we have the leaflet and the disc for part 1 and part 2, part 3 and part 4, but that is a misprint because this is a 2-parter. They did the same problem, or the same mistake on the damaged goods cover, so yep, they did that again. That's just something they overlooked when printing these, but oh well, it's just a little problem. And we have other installments of the novel adaptation line. And for the leaflet we have the normal variation, cast picture, Doctor Who magazine, production credits, and the alternative variation with the 7th Doctor layout. So, Nightshade, I've been so looking forward to this release. It's one of my most anticipated releases of this year from Big Finish, as I do seriously enjoy the book. It's one of my favourite Doctor Who books, and it's definitely Mark Gatiss' golden story. The first thing Mark Gatiss did for Doctor Who is certainly his best he's done for Doctor Who. It's truly magnificent. When comparing this to his TV stuff, there's a massive difference for me. I just cannot get into his TV stuff. Maybe his talent only shines on paper and not really TV. But he's also done Big Finish before, such as Phantasmagoria and Invaders from Mars. And I've listened to Phantasmagoria, it's a fun story, nothing outstanding. Invaders from Mars I haven't listened to. Yeah, Mark Gatiss definitely has talent because it's proved it here, and I proved it in my review of the book Nightshade. If you want to check that out, then it's in the description where I take a look at the book Nightshade. Yeah, it's definitely got talent with the fantastic atmosphere, the deep character moments, the brilliant characters, and the engaging plot. But yeah, this release has been adapted by Kyle Sikora, and I've never heard of this person, so I was a little bit worried. I was mainly looking forward to it and anticipated it, like most Big Finish releases. But inside, I had a little bit of fear that, oh dear, I've never heard of this person. I really hope he delivers this, because Nightshade is one of my favourite Doctor Who stories, so I had a little bit of doubt I did that maybe this won't be the classic and joining up with the book, or perhaps even better than the book if it can do that. But from listening to the behind the scenes, the Cal Sikora really put a lot of effort in it, and sometimes he did get some help from Mark Gatiss, such as the dialogue, because he did struggle with the dialogue a little bit, so Mark Gatiss helped him through that. So Mark Gatiss was sort of involved in the adaptation of Nightshade as well on audio. But that doesn't show a sign of weakness at all. It's great that Cal Sikora did get help from Mark Gatiss, the original writer, so that makes me happy. But yeah, this review is going to be a little bit different how I do Big Finish reviews. It's going to have the same format and structure, where I go the summary of the story, in-depth review, from part 1 to part 4, or in this case, part 1 to part 2. Characters and performances and an overall conclusion, but through this review I will be comparing the audio and the book to each other, as I'm going to cover all the stuff which was changed, which was kept, which was removed, its differences and similarities, and as well as there will probably be a new feature I'm going to add to novel adaptation reviews. By here I've got a score by here for the book and the audio, so if the book for example has a positive over the audio, that gets a point. If the audio gets a point over the book, then that gets a point. And the one with the most points, it's obvious that that one is the best. So I've just thrown in a new feature for these novel adaptation reviews because they're probably going to be very rare. But yeah, the other novel adaptations are so far away, with Original Sin, December, and that secret one. Confirm it, Big Finish, we really want to know. That novel adaptation is driving me and people crazy that they're still hiding it. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about that, but hopefully they will confirm it soon, as I see no point of them hiding it now and keeping very quiet about it. But it is obvious that they are building it up, so it's going to be quite a big novel. So yeah, let's begin the review, and the versus video as well, with Nightshade. So yes, to the summary of Nightshade, it takes place after the events of the Cat's Cradle trilogy, consisting of Time's Crucible, Warhead, and Witchmark. I haven't read this trilogy for myself, and I know that very dark stuff happens in it. Quite big moments happen which affects the Doctor and Ace, and during this point the Doctor has just had enough travelling. He's had enough battling evil and trying to take down threats. He just wants to give up, stop travelling, stop fighting evil, and just rest, give up and retire what he loves. And yeah, in the book that was a really big thing, as the Doctor was seriously affected by it. He was so withdrawn and down about it, and in the book as well, completely ignoring Ace. And as well, at times the Doctor is so frustrated with Ace, the Doctor tells Ace to shut up in the book, but Ace keeps going on about it, and Ace is in quite of a happy mood trying to cheer up the Doctor, but the Doctor's just having none of it. He's written quite interesting, but yeah, the dialogue, the deep character moments was toned down a little bit, because Virgin books, they are adult only books. So of course they can't really put that into the audio, because what Big Finish want to do with these stories, or the novel adaptations, they want to make it accessible for all listeners and not just adults throwing in all this really gritty and gravitas dialogue. But yeah, that's where it's starting at for the Doctor and Ace. But yeah, they land in 1968 in an isolated village called Crook Markham, and soon in this village there's going to be a various amount of murders, and people are being killed one by one by this threat lurking in the shadows. And yeah, that's pretty much where the story starts off, with two plot lines, a character plot line and a story plot line, with these murders happening in this village, and as well with this character moments for the Doctor and Ace. So yeah, that's the summary of Nightshade. Now I'll go to my in-depth review from start to finish. Yeah, Nightshade is one of the most important and biggest Doctor Who Virgin New Adventures, because it does start out quite a big thing, a character arc in the Virgin New Adventures for Ace, as Ace during the end of Nightshade, not this one, but it was a little bit different from what they did at the end, but in the book Nightshade something very shocking happened, and that struck a lot of animosity for the 7th Doctor and Ace, and that was brought into Love and War, the first departure of Ace, and then Ace is brought back into Seat, where she's made into this explosive expert and a Dalek killer, and Ace is not pleased to see the Doctor again and brings so much animosity. Her personality, her character is a lot more different. She's battle hardened now, and it's a lot like this all the way from Deceit, so starting from Deceit all the way to No Future, and by that thing just calms down a little bit from No Future. Yeah, the reason why Ace has changed so much, it was because of the ending of Nightshade. That is what started it up. But yeah, Nightshade's tinkered around a little bit, things change, which I'll get to soon. Yeah, the relationship by Love and War was by breaking point, and it didn't seem like it would ever recover from the events of Deceit. See, as I said in Nightshade, the Doctor Who book, the Doctor was just being so down and completely ignoring Ace, but in the audio, the Doctor still respects Ace and talks to her. Still, there is a scene where the Doctor gets really frustrated that Ace keeps saying about him retiring, and he does tell Ace to be quiet, but he feels so bad about the situation and what he just did, so he does apologise, but in the book he does no such thing. So I like it where the Doctor still respects Ace and has a nice relationship with Ace, but he's still really down about the situation, but he's just had enough. So yeah, in the book the character moments is a lot more deeper, but here I do like it that the Doctor still has a relationship with Ace, even though in the position he's in, the situation he is in, he's really down and withdrawn about it. Yeah, Carl Sakura did very well with the dialogue. It's not like Nightshade, the book. Things are just, slightly calmed down, not as gritty. Not like the book Nightshade, but still, it's really well done, the dialogue. It works perfectly, with nice assistance from Mark Gatiss as well. Even though it's calmed down a little bit, it's still paying a lot of respect to the Cat's Cradle trilogy. Big things happened in that trilogy that affected the Doctor. He said, screw it, I'm not doing this anymore, I've had enough, I'm retiring, I want to stay somewhere. So I like it that it still pays a lot of respect to the Cat's Cradle trilogy. Yeah, the Doctor's dialogue, he has some great scenes, and when thinking of Susan as well. Because in this story he reflects on everything he's done wrong. That all his travels, there have been people dying because of his interference. Thinking about Susan and leaving her in her position, that is an alien planet in an alien time. Seriously, fantastic character moments in this story. And I know that isn't the best ride for a story. A lot of people find it quite slowly paced out, but I think the character drive is so fantastic. But yeah, I would talk about the main supporting character of this story, which is Edmund Trevivick, who is played by John Castle. Absolutely fantastic performances by him. Yes, in the book, he felt like he was the centre stage character of the story, of moving the plot along. Because in the book, it was really Edmund moving this plot along, but the Doctor was trying to stay away from it because in the position, the situation he is in, feeling really down and doesn't want to battle evil anymore. He's just had enough of it. So sometimes he feels, at times, sidelined from the plot. Still, in the book, the Doctor is connected to it. He's still doing stuff, but at times he's just sidelined away from it. That is something I forgot to say in my review of Nightshade the book, but here we have 1 point for the audio, is that it feels like the characters are balanced out, the main characters such as the Doctor, Ace and Edmund, because in the book it feels like Edmund is moving the plot along. But I love Edmund's character, I absolutely loved him in the book. He was my favourite character in the book, and he still is one of my favourite characters within this story. But it's nice that Carl Sakura balanced it out, that the Doctor isn't sidelined by what Edmund Trevivick is doing. They're both on the same lines, balanced out, so that was really good by Carl Sakura, that the Doctor had a little bit more focus to the plot. But I can see why he wasn't in the book, because he was just so down and so frustrated about it. But yeah, that's a point for the audio Nightshade. 1 point for the audio. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about Edmund's character. He is just a wonderful character, as he is a retired actor who was in a show called Nightshade. He played the character Professor Nightshade battling monsters. And the show Nightshade is obviously a direct reference to Doctor Who itself. And Professor Nightshade and Edmund Trevivick himself, he really reminds me of the first Doctor. He's got the characteristics of the first Doctor, being quite rude and stubborn a little bit, just like the first Doctor himself. So yeah, that is obviously quite of a nice reference to Doctor Who itself with Nightshade. It's very much like Doctor Who, and Edmund Trevivick definitely being like the first Doctor. And as well, just a really nice Hammer House of Horror reference as well. So yes, this story is presented as a two-parter, not a four-parter. Each part is 1 hour long and it runs for 2 hours in total with behind the scenes. I do personally prefer 4-part stories when it comes to these novel adaptations. As with Love and War, I do really enjoy Love and War, the audio and the book, but with both of them, and the audio mainly, I do have sort of pacing issues with it. As one part is an hour long, so sometimes the pacing can be a little bit slow at times. So I had a feeling that Nightshade may be doing this, but I didn't have no problem with the pacing. I think the pacing was absolutely perfect, and again, the book as well. Pacing was absolutely perfect, so Cal Sikora paced it out just like the book Nightshade, so that was really well done. But again, story structuring has changed a little bit where Cal Sikora does that. Still very much pacing is exactly the same in the book, so wonderful. Yeah, this is the difference between the two. They both start out rather differently, they do. And this is why. The book, it starts out to drive with its atmosphere. Immediately, when you read the book, you can feel the atmosphere just kicking in straight away. But these monsters are in the shadows lurking. And their presence is so strong, it's brilliant. The atmosphere is so good in this one. It's one of the best atmospheric Doctor Who stories. But in the audio, it takes time for the atmosphere to creep in. It starts off with this character drive. So it starts out introducing all these characters before the atmosphere is starting to kick in. So this story does let you have a chance to invest in these characters, which I had no problem doing, as I've experienced the characters before in the book. And I just loved the character drive of this one. And I loved the atmospheric drive of this one. They both have different drives at the start, but yet they both work. And I can't really think of which one I prefer or not. But yeah, the atmosphere in this one, it starts slowly and it goes up and up and up and up and up. But this one, it quickly gets into the atmosphere and then slowly builds up. So this one gets in the atmosphere quicker, absolutely immediately. And this one, it starts off the character drive and lets you have a chance to invest in these characters. So yeah, the drives of these two, very different, but yet they both work, so I'm going to give a point to both of these. 1 to the book and 2 for the audio. So now to the villains of the story. Oh wow, the villains. I freaking loved the villains in the book. They were so damn creepy, they were. But yeah, both in the novel and the audio, they take time before they actually get into it. You can feel their presence, but when they actually show up, that takes time. But you can feel that they're in the story, in the background, because their presence is so strong. That's where the atmosphere kicks in. The atmosphere is very thick, especially in the book, immediately. As I said with the audio, it takes time, but the atmosphere is quite thick. The villains are great, but I have to give the point to the novel and not the audio. The novel wins because some of their elements were removed from the book, and I say to myself, well, they would have worked in the audio just fine. Still, they're fantastic in the audio. They're brilliant. I do love the villains, but I prefer them in the book. Because in the audio they say Nightshade when they see Professor Nightshade, Edmund Trevivik, they sort of freak out. But in the book they didn't do that from what I remember, they just growled, they did. They were just really damn vicious. As I preferred them when they just growled and freaked out that way, except for them saying Nightshade in a really high-pitched voice. I just preferred when they just growled really low, because they sound like absolute predators. But yeah, another element which was removed was this oily taste that you have underneath by here, and you choke from it, and this is a sign where one of the monsters are near. You can't breathe properly, and the person feels extremely sick because this monster is so close to them. But these are 8 to 9 foot monsters, and they stay hidden away from all these characters. And yeah, when they've been seen by someone else, they quickly run for it, they vanish. Because in the book, they try to keep themselves not to be known, but eventually when they're feared, they know they can go in for the attack. So they feel a little bit more smarter in the book rather than the audio. So they feel like more normal Doctor Who villains in this one, but in the book they feel a lot more smarter. Yeah, another element which was removed again, I'm not sure why it was the force barrier around Crook Marsham. There was this massive force barrier which prevented anyone from leaving the town and anyone gaining access to the town, so no emergency authority. Emergency services can get in as well. No one can get in and no one can get out. The story felt so trapped, and it feels terrifying that these creatures are all about and they can't escape. No, I never remember that being mentioned in the audio. I like to think that the force barrier is still there in the audio, but I never hear a mention that it's actually there. So either if I missed it or it wasn't, so someone can correct me if the force barrier was in this story or not, because I think it wasn't, but I could have missed it. So yeah, for the villains, it's a point to the novel. They were still brilliant in this one, but they were done a lot more better in the novel, so it's 2-2. So yeah, the story plot opens up with some of the characters having these psychological attacks and nightmares, which is striking fear to them, which actually becomes quite a big thing within the story. This happens to the character of Lawrence experiencing these terrible nightmares. But yeah, in the book, Lawrence wasn't the character experiencing these nightmares, it was his wife, Betty, who was experiencing these nightmares, and I had so much sympathy for the character of Betty, experiencing these terrible, horrifying nightmares. But yeah, in the adaptation, her character was gone, and it was Lawrence replacing the character of Betty, and Lawrence's character pretty much goes how Betty character goes in the book. Yeah, they removed quite a few characters from the novel. The characters in this one is Edmund, Robin, Hawthorne, Lawrence, Jill, Barclay and Holland. So yeah, the cast was a little bit small and it was minimised from the book. And the characters which were removed was Vijay, Constable Lowcock, which I thank God he was removed. He was so annoying in the book Nightshade. So I was happy that he was out of the equation. It just really got on my nerves. His dialogue was so annoying. It just got under my teeth. And as well, it was Cooper, Oliver, and there was someone else as well. Oh yeah, Jack. Yeah, the characters which were removed didn't really bother me that much, but it was Betty which I was quite unsure about, because I found her character really good and had so much sympathy for her when she was in the book experiencing these nightmares. Yeah, her storyline was replaced with Lawrence experiencing it, because Betty wasn't even in the audio. But yeah, about halfway through part 1, maybe about 60% through it, this is where the atmosphere is kicking in now, and it's being unleashed. Yeah, the atmosphere kicks in when the Doctor says, "I think there's a storm coming." However, I've got another point for the novel. I wish they didn't remove that many characters, because there was one really good thing about the novel, and it was its unpredictability. Out of all these characters, I was wondering, whoa, who's going to die from these monsters? Who's next? Who's going to be a target with these monsters? I had no idea which character was going to go. Was some of them going to be killed? If all of them were going to be killed, all the supporting characters were going to be killed? I really didn't know. So that's the point for the novel, is level of unpredictability with the bigger cast. But here the unpredictability is a little bit lower. Smaller cast, so it doesn't add that level of unpredictability of who's going to die by these monsters. But if you're first experiencing this story, then it will have a little bit of unpredictability of who's going to die and whatnot. But yeah, in the novel, it's a lot more better because there's more characters. There's about 7 supporting characters, not including Susan, in this story, and there's around about a dozen in the book Nightshade. See, that was the point for the novel. Yes, it is now 3-2, the book is in the lead. But yeah, I do have another point for the audio. It was its reveal and build-up for the monsters getting into the story, with actually seeing them. But yeah, in the book they take quite a long time to get in the book, but it does deliver with its fantastic atmosphere, gotta give it that. And his appearance in the book with attacking Edmund Trevick was absolutely fantastic, but here they appeared around about by the cliffhanger, and it did give me chills. Yeah, the 7th Doctor delivers a really good line of dialogue explaining about fear, and after that you can hear all these monsters going crazy. Yeah. And then cuts to the cliffhanger, and that cliffhanger says to me, oh crap, now these monsters are not messing about. So yes, the villain's actual appearance felt more impacting in the audio rather than the book. Maybe because I can actually hear it for myself, but in just the book it's just printed on paper. But still, it's done fantastic in the book, but it's done slightly better in the audio. I felt more impacting and it gave me absolute chills. So yeah, in part 2 the plot is opened a little bit more, much more faster paced, because part 1 started out with character drive and atmosphere kicking in, But here now it's got a little bit more action in it, with the monsters getting into the story and actually seeing them. Yeah, Nightshade expands its plot quite quickly, but in the novel it does take its time. Again, another bit of structuring difference here is that the novel took a little bit more an ambiguous mystery sort of drive to it, as the book really took its time to expand the plot of what was going on, which makes the reader go, oh, I really want to know what's going on now, what are these monsters are up to. At times I do think to myself that the novel took a little bit too long to get into all that, but still the ambiguous sort of way Mark Gatiss did the book was really well done. The audio does it a little bit more faster. But I love both the structuring during this point. By here it takes like an ambiguous mystery direction it does. By here it's a lot more faster paced developing the plot. So I'm going to give a point to both of these, 4-4. As structuring on both the sides was very good. Again, very different, but very good. But still, the audio's got a little bit of mystery to it. Maybe it didn't hit me as much because I've experienced the story before in the book. Yeah, Edmund, when he was playing Professor Nightshade in the show Nightshade, he was battling these monsters, and those monsters are exactly the same as the ones which are in the town killing people, so that's obviously quite a nice mystery of what that's all about. If you see my review, you know that Chapter 8 is my favourite chapter in this book. Chapter 8 is so damn strong. It's my favourite part of Nightshade, with Edmund Trevivik being stalked and chased by this monster in the radio telescope building. It has to be one of the most suspenseful and tense moments in Doctor Who history, and that is just printed on paper, and it was probably one of the most suspenseful things I've ever experienced. Edmund being stalked and chased by this creature, and he was in this government radio telescope building, and it never gave up. It was smashing through walls, breaking down doors, making them go absolutely flying, breaking through the floor, metal floor. It just never stopped, and when Edmund shot it multiple times, it just freaked out and just smashed everything. And he was still chasing Edmund and attacking him. Just to remember, this is an 8 to 9 foot monster attacking Edmund. It's absolutely terrifying. That's my favourite thing about Nightshade. I think that's my favourite thing in a Doctor Who book. It was just that well done and suspenseful and tense. However, in the audio it cut it short, and I said to myself, oh wow, that's disappointing, because Chapter 8 was my favourite, and all Cal Sakura did in that part was just compressed Chapter 8 in a single scene where Edmund just shot it and it was dead. I didn't want that to happen. I wanted it to bloody freak out and smash absolutely everything in the room, because that's what it did in the book. It just went absolutely crazy. The bullets, it didn't stop it, it just made the situation worse, and it made it so angry. I just felt a little bit disappointed that the monsters were defeated so easy by a few gunshots. I wish it followed the book, where it was a lot more difficult to kill it. As in the book, Edmund does kill it, but he only kills it by a really good tactical mind, as a gun isn't going to be enough to take it down. So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed with Chapter 8. It didn't get like a track, it was just really a scene. So that's definitely a point to the novel. So it's 5-4. That is my one negative about the audio, that it didn't deliver Chapter 8 justice, because that was my favourite part about Nightshade. Ace gets a nice part of this story, having a nice relationship with Robin, and that in the book leads into a very shocking moment, and that epilogue with Robin is very touching to the reader. But yes, Ace has some very memorable moments of when she's in the church, or the monastery it is, and these monsters are attacking it. Yeah, the monsters have more scenes, they do, than the book, so that's a positive with the audio rather than the book, as the book more relies on its atmosphere, and then later on they do appear, but not as much as the audio, so I've got to give a point to the audio with that. They do appear more in the audio, and when they do, their attacking scenes is brilliant. Still, it wasn't anything compared to Chapter 8 of the novel. I still wish that was put in there, and it wasn't compressed down into a scene. It would have been a lot better if it was a track lasting for about at least 3 to 4 minutes, and I would have been satisfied. But as well, something with the Doctor happens very nicely in the book, and it has something to do with Susan, it does. And in the audio, it was quite brief. Don't think it was anything big with Susan, because it isn't really in the audio, sorry, in the book. But there's like a nice little twist in the book seriously affects the Doctor, and that was really well done in the book. So the ending to Nightshade, not the actual story about how the monsters get defeated, it happened quite quickly in the audio, rather sudden. Still a good ending, but it happened quite quickly for me. In the book, I liked the ending, but I had a sort of a different problem with it. I found some of the stuff leading up to it a little bit predictable, such as with Edmund Trevivick in that final part. But yeah, I found that lead up rather predictable in the books, but still good endings. I don't think I'll give a point out for the endings because they're rather about the same and they weren't anything outstanding to conclude the monsters. But yeah, at the end of Nightshade, when the monsters are defeated, it has quite a long track with the 7th Doctor and Ace, similar to the book as well. But it is different. The ending scene is done differently. With the book, it's very shocking, and that leads into a cliffhanger, which goes into Love and War. But in the audio Nightshade, it's Ace put in a difficult situation and something to do with choice. So that was interesting, but I would say I prefer the ending to Nightshade because I think it would have personally worked. Maybe they had to change the thing of how Ace reacts to it because that was sort of mess with the Nightshade, the Love and War adaptation. But still, I think they could have gone to that direction, personally. But yeah, the epilogue as well, that is absolutely fantastic. It's not in the audio, but in the book it's brilliant, and I like to think that happens too when in the events of Love and War starting up. But yeah, I do prefer the ending to the book rather than the audio, so it's a point to the novel on this one because it just has that shock factor to it. Anyway, for the characters, we have the 7th Doctor. Fantastic performances by Sylvester McCoy. It's a really good, deep, character-driven story. A nice character moments and development for him. If you're a fan of the Virgin New Adventures line and features after Cat's Cradle, then of course you're going to love this one. But of course it was toned down because the Virgin books are more adult audience. Still very good nonetheless, the dialogue. Ace, Sophie Aldred, fantastic from her. Still wish it went along with the original ending. Maybe just change the ending slightly, but just keep to the original. That's what I would have personally done. Yeah, Ace is put in this dilemma, which I really like. And you can truly see the relationship with the 7th Doctor and Ace in this one. This story really justifies that the 7th Doctor and Ace are such a great pairing. And at the start of watching Doctor Who, Ace has never sparked to me as a companion, but when I got into Big Finish, and especially Nightshade, then I really have looked and said to myself, well, this is just a brilliant pairing. Ace just never clicked to me in like 2013, 2014, or even 2015 for that matter. Yet after experiencing the Virgin New Adventures, I think I am becoming more in love with Ace's character. And I love her moment at the end where she's going through this dilemma. Not really done in the book because it's rather one-sided with Ace being rather annoyed what happens. But here she's extremely upset and she doesn't know what to do. So I have to give a point to the audio for that. Although I still wish, I've said it multiple times, he went down the book direction. For supporting characters is Edmund Trevivick by John Castle. The main supporting character of Nightshade, and absolutely fantastic. He's an obvious reference to the Doctor himself, more to the original, the first Doctor. If you like Nightshade, you're gonna like Edmund Trevivick because he's so connected to the story. And as well, great interactions with the 7th Doctor. Just reminds me of the first Doctor meeting the 7th Doctor because he's got the characteristics of the first Doctor. Brilliant performances by John Castle. Great casting choice for Edmund Trevivick. I couldn't really think of anyone better for the cast job. Next is Robin by Samuel Barnett. A really good character again, nice relationship with Ace, and again, him and that epilogue in the book was simply stunning. Great performances and interactions with Ace. Next is Jill by Catherine Jenkins. She was alright, she didn't really stick in my head too much, her character, and I think I had the same feeling with that in the book, to be honest. I just found her character a little bit forgettable, not as good as the other ones, Edmund Trevivick and other characters like that. They just pushed her away, so she was rather forgettable in my opinion. Next is Hawthorne by Edward Harrison. Very government-minded character, and he's really rude to anyone who he thinks is under his level of knowledge. A little bit stubborn in places he is, but I like the character. Doesn't do too much. He's mainly just stuck in the radio telescope building. But from performances, great. We have some other small roles, but they weren't too much. But yeah, a lot of characters were thrown out, like Jack, Constable Lowcock, Cooper, the BBC reporter as well. I think he was thrown out as well. As well, Susan, Karen Ford briefly appeared in this. It's nothing absolutely huge, but it's a little bit more bigger in the book. And yeah, maybe that was referencing Lumbarrow. Come on, Big Finish. You know you want to adapt this. Now, we really need to know this 11th novel adaptation now. It's driving us crazy. We need to know, is it Lumbarrow, Cold Fusion, Sovar Sin? What is it? They've kept it quiet for so long and it's driving people crazy. But I do know this, it won't be a BBC book because they did say, well, they could be lying, but they did say they have no plans to do BBC books right now because BBC are doing those audio books. Even if that's the case, or they're completely lying through their teeth, I don't know, but it's most likely a Virgin book. The ones I would say which will probably pop up is Lumbarrow, Cold Fusion, Sovar Sin, and perhaps Blood Harvest. They're the books which I've got in my mind, and I have to do a few changes to some of them. But yeah, I have a strong feeling there's one of those. I don't think it's anything else. Even though Transit, I think, is very possible to happen. So I think they can make that one a really good one. But I don't think it's that secret one. But anyway, that's irrelevant, that is. Now to the conclusion of Nightshade. Nightshade is one of my favourite Doctor Who stories. I love the audio, I love the book. So now, what is better? The audio or the book? Now, these did get 6 points each. They both did really well. It wasn't a one-sided battle. They were always clashing each other. Nightshade, the audio has positives over the book, but then the book comes back and gets positives over that. So, which one do I prefer? On my second listen, did I prefer the audio? Or do I prefer the book? So, the one which won this versus, the book's on top for me. But really, Kyle Sikora, you did an absolutely fantastic job bringing Nightshade to life. You really did nail it. But the book, I was thinking that this one would be a tough cookie to beat. Because I seriously love this book, but there were a few elements you didn't use which I think could have been used. And it would really make the audio shine. So I'm a little bit unsure why those elements weren't used, even though they were very good. And as well, I think my main one is the villains are better in the book. But yeah, the book, it slightly beats the audio for me. So it was a very close battle, but still, anyway, Kyle Sikora did a fantastic job with Nightshade. It's fantastic atmosphere, brilliant moments, very tense moments, really deep character moments. Seriously well paced out, the drive is fantastic, the acting's fantastic. I do adore Nightshade. It is 9 out of 10. I give the book a 0.5 more. Yeah, this is 9 out of 10, this is 9.5. Because I think that book can go that little extra mile. But all in all, well done to Kyle Sikora and the Big Finish team for making one of my favourite stories come to life, and they did do it very well. So thanks for watching my review on Nightshade. It was quite a difficult review, this one. It took quite some time setting this one up. I had no time left to record my Accutane review as well, my review of the Keys of Marinus, so hopefully I have tomorrow to do that. But if I don't have any time, then my next video will be my Big Finish collection, the most wanted and anticipated video on this channel. So of course people are going to dig that, and yes, it is 1,000 times bigger than what I did in 2014. But yeah, it would have been even bigger if I wasn't so focused on the books, as I want to get the books out of the way. I think I'll be finished with the PDAs, the EDAs and the Virgin books by 2016, because I'm going so fast with them. But anyway, thanks for watching my review of Nightshade. The next video, it may be Accutane if I can get it out, or if it's not, and the Keys of Marinus review doesn't come out, then it will be the Big Finish collection. So, thanks for watching my review on Nightshade, and of course, have a good one.